Cinema Worms.
Discussing everything from Grima Wormtongue to the Shy Halib.
I'm Sabib.
And I'm Lindz.
And this is Cinema Worms Podcast.
Alright, so we're going to be talking about a film that I saw and you haven't, which I don't understand why, because I've been so busy.
I'm tired. I'm so tired.
Bless your little heart. Okay. So, I was kind of hoping to see this with you, and it's a shame we didn't, because we saw the Bob Dylan biopic earlier this year together.
That was
and I was hoping to bookend it with a Springsteen one, but nevertheless, I'll talk about it. You can interview me if you care to do so. So this was, it's actually called Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. And you know how I feel about punctuation in films? Great. Great when used appropriately. It is a biopic starring Jeremy Allen White. Of course, we know him from The Bear. He's also in Shameless as well, and various other things. He's one of those actors that's around at the moment. It's basically Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal, and Jeremy Allen White. These are the men who will be in everything, apart from obviously Chalamet. Written and directed by Scott Cooper. Scott Cooper did 2009's Crazy Heart and 2022's The Pale Blue Eye and some other films.
I loved Crazy Heart at
the
the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, actually. I know of it, but I've never seen it. And it was...
He won an Oscar for it.
Oh, did he?
What's his face?
Good for you.
Jeff Bridges.
I was gonna...
Jeffrey Bridges.
Jeffrey Bridges is what his mother calls him. Okay, so this is based on the 2023 book Deliver Me From Nowhere by Warren Zanes, who actually also did Tom Petty's biography. He's also a guitarist for the Del Fuegos and a solo artist, and he is like the former vice president of education and public programs for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, as well as some other things.
Oh,
So he's like a cool, important guy, Warren Zanes. So it also adds in some elements from Springsteen's autobiography, Born to Run. And it basically, the film takes place and kind of chronicles Springsteen's personal struggles while he's he goes back to this place called Colt's Neck, and he's making what will become his 1982 album Nebraska, which has, I don't know that many Springsteen songs. Not being American, I didn't really grow up with him, but the stuff that I like is often like his sadder, angrier stuff. And I was really excited, we'll get to that in a minute, about the actual music that's included in this biopic. It also stars Jeremy Strong, just being Jeremy Strong. I think Jeremy Strong can only ever be Jeremy Strong, no matter what he's doing, but it's okay because it worked as this character. He's playing his manager. And Stephen Graham is playing Bruce Springsteen. When you go back to sort of the flashbacks of his childhood, Stephen Graham's playing his drunken dad. Now, tough to watch because I've never seen Stephen Graham do an American accent before. I think this is the first time, and he did a really good one, but because we just saw Adolescence, it was so difficult for me to look at Stephen Graham and not see like a sympathetic dad, and here he's not particularly sympathetic in a lot of ways. He's he's a bit of a deadbeat, he's a bit of a drunk. And Odessa Young was playing the love interest of Bruce Springsteen here as well. So it was it's got some mixed reviews from critics, and I can sort of see why in some ways. It's not maybe done as a crowd pleaser. It's a little bit of an angry guitar thrash with a lot of sadness going on in it. It's almost like the album itself, that, you know, Jeremy Strong's like character, who's his manager, is like, okay, you're going in a totally different direction. Hey, can you write like another Born to Run or something? And he does actually end up coming up with Born in the USA, which of course will be in a later album. But a lot of the stuff in Nebraska is Bruce Springsteen like going to the library and looking at you know how you used to, like, in now some people may not know this because they were born after the fall of the libraries, but we used to be able to go to libraries and research archives in particular ways, and like you would have special machines where you can kind of flick through the newspapers.
You see that in movies a lot.
So this is before everything was very digitized. So you see him doing that, and he gets really into this particular kind of criminal, and he sort of almost starts doing like a sort of a whole album just based around, it's like a concept album based around the life of this criminal and kind of what he said, and he killed multiple people, and then was like, well, you know, I've always been like this, and life kind of made me this way. And he gets really, and it's not a great idea necessarily for Bruce Springsteen to go this deep into another man's mind, because he's not doing very well mentally in this film in himself. He's really depressed. He's had a lot of fame, which has been great, and at the same time there's something kind of missing there. He's stressed. You know, he starts seeing this love interest, but he's finding it really hard to let her in. He's frequently late to their dates because he's busy recording or doing something else. The music consumes him. And yeah, it's just, that's really interesting to see. He's a sensitive, tortured guy. He is the opposite of Timothée Chalamet's Bob Dylan. So, What would you like to know about Deliver Me From Nowhere?
like, ask me anything.
Ask me
about Deliver Me From Nowhere
about this film, because oh lord, yeah, he's just like reading Flannery O'Connor and watching like the film Badlands. So the guy, the criminal that he's researching is called Charles Starkweather, which bloody hell, what a good name, Starkweather.
Oh
yeah.
Cool name for a murderer.
Well, well, I mean, how many ers do you want the murderer to have? Okay, so
I remember how much we loved. What was the
A Complete Unknown?
A Complete Unknown,
Mm-hmm.
the Dylan one. I really enjoyed that. You did too.
Mm-hmm.
We both thought it was great.
Fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not okay. So there's that film. There's the typical biopic, and I would say these films are all good, but the Whitney one, what? Hold me closer, tiny dancer.
The Elton John.
Yeah, okay. I
the
was
Elton
like
John one.
completely blanked on
Once
his
again,
name.
of all of the Elton John songs, you went for Tiny Dancer.
Yeah, the most iconic one. Okay.
What? The most, you know what? Okay, I'm not. I won't take your bait. I won't take your rage bait here.
So those films, you know, Whitney, Elton John, those films kind of had a classic arc that you see in biopics.
The Queen one as well,
the Queen
one was not very good, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was a little more corny.
Yes.
Sorry, that was corny.
It was also made up. Anyway,
so you kind of look for the, like, oh, they discovered music, and then oh, they have their hit, they're writing their hit, and then oh, they reach the drug phase. And, you know, I enjoy that, especially when you have good performances, good musical moments.
We love a rise and then a crash.
Yeah. Their redemption. Mm-hmm. I thought A Complete Unknown was pretty innovative in that it just did that in a deeper way.
It was just a rise and rise, you know. Yeah. There was never really a crash. Now
for this one, you said it was a bit different.
It is very different because Bruce isn't doing... like, he's not doing drugs or anything. He's not even really drinking very much. He's just addicted in a different kind of way to music and trying to make something that is meaningful to him. The first thing you see of him is performing Born to Run, surrounded by a stadium of screaming fans, and then we almost immediately go watch him drive to Colts Neck and just take a little time off. And so you're not, you couldn't even call it a crash because there's not a lot of crashing. There's just this man kind of finding himself at the bottom of a spiral that's kind of culminating in him searching for a different kind of meaning. You know, yes, he can write these big banger stadium filler songs, but he wants to do something that is art as well, is not just music, it's art. And this is him kind of trying to find something. And of course, back then, you know, not a lot of people were kind of doing concept albums outside of, you know, like I just don't think you were finding it in the kind of music that Springsteen was known for at the time. It was a huge departure. The record executives get real anxious about this. They don't like that. They're like, please just go back to the, you know, we would just love a big hit, you know, we like your money. So it's really different. I think there's one of the things that I particularly liked about this is some of the songs I really enjoy from Nebraska. Like I'm on Fire is one of my favorite Springsteen songs, and I know I've talked to you before, but for listeners who maybe don't know, there's a live performance somewhere of Springsteen talking about right before he launches into I'm on Fire, where he says he used to sneak out. And he would, drive off in the middle of the night, go do whatever he was doing with his friends or a girl or whatever, and he would come home, and he would try and come home really quietly, but he would see the cherry of his father's cigarette glowing in the kitchen through the window, and he would know that his dad was sitting there in the darkness waiting for him to come home, and he was going to catch hell. And he said that he would be sitting in his truck, like too afraid to go in. And when you see these flashbacks, they do feel very visceral. The violence is kind of kept to a minimum, but it's almost worse because of that, because of that it's happening even when you're kind of not seeing it. There is this. His dad is, again played by Stephen Grimm. He's a big kind of tree of a dude. He is like stocky. You can see why this would be very overwhelming for like a little skinny boy. His dad just wants him to be a man and be something, and Bruce is sensitive. He's not like that, and he doesn't want to fight, and he doesn't want to just drink and die in this town, and he wants to do something. So watching those flashbacks really made me like think of that. And of course the music that he's making this time is very soulful, very different. He wants it to feel like he's the only person in the room. This isn't a big recording studio sound. This is him in his bedroom in this little place he's rented with like a soundboard and like one guy who's helping him, like one friend, and it makes the whole thing feel really intimate.
Well, now you're convincing me to see it. So
it was really good. I'm still thinking about it, and I've seen a few films since, but I'm still thinking about it now. I thought it was, and it says at the end as well, like I didn't know Bruce Springsteen actually had kind of lifelong struggles with his mental health, and that he's been in therapy and that he advocates it for everybody. Which I thought was a really nice message to kind of end with. Is nothing kind of goes to such extremes in this film, but I think it's important to remember that like you don't have to be an extreme to seek help. You can just be unhappy in some way. That's enough. Like there's no kind of threshold at which you have to be before you can seek medical help from somebody. What do you say to that, Dr. Abraham?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. It sounds like a moody, contemplative film.
It is. That's exactly how I'd sum it up. And I definitely recommend that you see it.
Okay, I will.
Right, so I saw The Choral, and you did not. So this is going to be interesting to talk about.
Yes, I declined to join you.
You know what? Normally a mistake on your part. This time, a smart decision. I actually think what I text you was the letter word oofed.
Yeah.
It was not great. So The Choral purports to be a historical comedy drama. It's co-produced and directed by Nicholas Heitner, who he's most famous probably for like Miss Saigon, The History Boys, which was, a lot of he was artistic director of the National Theatre in London. He did like The Crucible in '96 and things like that. He's also been knighted. So he's done well for himself in the theatre.
Can I interject to let you know, you know how obsessed I was with The History Boys at the time?
I've never seen it.
I never saw the play. I saw the movie.
I've never seen that either. I know it's a huge thing, but I don't know. I actually missed it. They were doing a revival of it quite recently, I think, and I missed it again. This is why we should have a National Theatre Live membership. Shout out to National Theatre Live memberships. Give us something for free. We will talk about it. Yeah, so basically Heitner directed this. I have some questions about this. It makes a lot more sense when you consider that he, has really come up through in the theatre. But it was written by Alan Bennett. Now, Alan Bennett has been known for doing a lot of things over a lot of time. He's quite beloved by a certain amount of slightly elderly,
Oh,
Again,
like him.
he wrote the History Boys screenplay in 2006. He wrote the Lady in the Van in 2015. And, so he's been working with Nicholas Heitner for a while, but I do not think that this necessarily is the great meeting of minds that perhaps we all could have hoped for. I was going in expecting almost like a Downton Abbey vibe. Like, as I said to you, we didn't talk too much about it when I came home, but this kind of film is basically made for me. This is my bread and butter of films. This is all of the kind of thing that I like. So I'm going to tell you what it's about, and then you'll see exactly why it's the exact kind of thing that I like, and it just missed the mark so poorly. So basically, the Choral is it's set in 1916 during World War One in the fictional town of Ramsden, Yorkshire. So everyone has real Yorkshire accents, and they say nay a lot, which is cute. Basically, it's a local choral society run by a crotchety old man. In fact, there's a committee of crotchety old men. And they're having a bit of trouble because their choir master has decided to enlist. Now, 1916, we're a couple of years into the war, but we're not quite at the point of conscription yet. We will be during the course of this film, but this is still at the point where you could choose to go. And so, obviously, a lot of young men did sign up, thinking it was their patriotic duty, and as such, not only are they missing a chorus master, but they're also missing, like, a bunch of male voices, which makes the choir a bit female heavy and kind of difficult. Anyway, so they decide they need another choir master, and they decide that the best of their few options, the pickings are slim at this point, is Ray Fiennes' Dr. Henry Guthrie. But the only problem is he's just come back from living in Germany. So he's a German supporter and maybe a sympathizer, so like what, but still they need it, and it's just handled so poorly. Anyway, there's a lot of people in this film that you would recognize, like Mark Addy, who I always think of as being in like the Full Monty, but who you will recognize as being Robert Baratheon in Game of Thrones, as well as like, your typical standard kind of, old English white dudes casting here. The problem with the young English white dudes casting is they all looked so similar that I was really having trouble telling them apart. And at one point I was thinking, okay, he's like the one that has the lips, this one's a bit tall, but the other two of the four I really was being very face blind with, so I was having a bit of trouble. We will get to some of the female characters in a bit, because one of them really stands out, but essentially that is the premise of the film. They've recruited this German sympathizer, and as such they were going to do one particular piece of music, and they decide that they're going to do something else, but all of the good composers they know are German. They keep listing people and going, oh no, German, which is really funny, and then eventually they get to Elgar, who makes a little appearance in the film, actually. So what do you think about the premise?
Sounds cute.
It does sound cute, doesn't it? It sounds so cute. It sounds so like it should be. Not like a sister act, but do you know what I mean? It's like your small town has an obstacle, and then they have to overcome it, and maybe overcome some strangely bigoted views or they learn something and there's heart. It is strangely dispassionate and doesn't seem to have... The reviews all seem quite good, which puzzles me. This film, it feels so disjointed. It also has like 14 endings. So that was the first of two films I saw that day that had multiple endings. At least this one nobody groaned about, but we will come to the other one. So the one thing that I can say about this film is Amara Okereke. I'm probably going to mispronounce that. She plays Mary. She's a Nigerian English actress. And my God, the voice of an angel... The face of an angel also, but the voice of a real angel, and she does get to play an angel because, as I said, they end up going with Elgar. And the piece that they pick is really about an old man on his deathbed thinking about his life, but because of, what's happening in the war, they end up rewriting it a little bit to be a young man in the trenches, which feels like it should be poignant. Again, with the director's background in theatre, I think it's the kind of thing that actually could have worked really well on the stage. It just doesn't translate. There's a lot of the acting that feels really oddly stilted. Again, you would get that in theatre. When it was live, you would get to feel kind of like the pauses between words. In a film, it just feels like everyone is slightly late to their cues. You know, there's like a second or a half a second too late to everything. Everything feels too spaced out. That's not how people talk. When they're having conversations, they're leaving giant, like, noticeably bigger pauses between words, or between lines to each other. And it just makes everything feel really performative.
It's a good thing to be able to notice.
It is, once you notice, it's like nails on a chalkboard. You can't unnotice it. The singing itself was kind of nice. I feel like it didn't feel like the big rousing climax that I'd hoped for as well with something like this. And the addition of Elgar actually popping up at one point, I feel just sort of sucked as well. I don't know if Elgar was kind of like this in real life or not, so I don't know enough about Elgar. He's not one of my favorites, so it's hard to sort of tell. But yeah, it's not what I hoped it would be. I don't even think I can recommend it, but it is getting written up really, really well. I mean, Ray Fiennes, unfortunately, because Ray Fiennes is so good, he is kind of showing everybody else up. He has this gravitas. He, if you can imagine his character from 28 years later, but like played really serious and straight. He's just like this doctor who's just like, you know, he has some gay leanings, and he believes in the music, and music transcends all languages and people. You know, he's just doing a thing, and everyone else is sort of larking about a little bit. It's also purports to be a comedy. It's not actually that funny either. So yeah, it should have been a great underdog film. I don't think it quite hit the mark.